So we'll go ahead and get started this afternoon. Welcome, everyone. And I know we'll have a few more folks joining. My name is Shally Katana, and I'm the Director of Member Experience and Programs here at MSBA. And I want to thank you all for joining us for our third town hall with section and committee chairs and chair-elects. I'd like to start, we'll start by hearing from our president and our executive director, then updates from members of our director team. Then, as we've done in the past, we'll open it up for questions and comments from all of you, and then we'll conclude the meeting with some remarks from our president-elect. So, Dana, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you. Thanks.
Sure. Thanks, Shelley. I just want to say thanks to everybody for continuing to try to make sense out of what's going on in the world right now. Everything's kind of been turned upside down, but as volunteer leaders, you are appreciated. I also want to mention a couple of activities, and I'm not sure when the last event of this nature was, but a couple of activities that we have been doing that led into the COVID crisis. But in I guess it's January, we were doing a lot of advocacy on behalf of the profession in general and on behalf of the ABA. The MSBA. We had our MSBA Day in Annapolis, which was extremely well received. It was orchestrated by Richard Montgomery, and he did a great job of putting the program together, where we were able to meet with our several members of the legislature. We met with the president of the Senate Judiciary Committee and the House Judicial Proceedings Committee, or I might have them reversed. But anyway, we met with the presidents there and told them some things that were on our mind in regard to access to justice and some other issues. And we were very well received. And other participants on behalf of the MSBA saw other legislators and spent about a half a day walking around and visiting with them. Kind of raised the profile of the MSBA, which was very fortuitous considering some things that were going to be happening immediately thereafter. We also had a luncheon for members of the legislature in the I guess the Senate office building, and it was very well attended. Chief Judge Barbera was there. Chief Judge Morrissey was there. A number of senators and legislators were there, and a lot of people had an opportunity to speak. It was well attended, and it really was, I would say, very effective, and it was very appreciated. Another event that we had, which is a repeated event, that was the first event of that nature the MSBA has ever put on. Another event we participated in, which is a repeating event, was we had a legislative breakfast, at which time Governor Hogan spoke, and President of the Senate and the chair of the House of Delegates spoke and opened themselves up for questions. Once again, there was a lot of people there. It was being broadcast, and it seemed to be a very successful event, and that event will be repeated. But actually, equally as important, the timing of this was very important, because at about that time, there was a lot of discussion about raising Kirwan funds for the educational programs. And one of the ways that it was initially proposed, the initial proposal out of the House Appropriations Committee was that they were going to tax legal services and a lot of other services that are not currently taxed. They are exempt from sales tax, as you can all well imagine, because we are small businesses trying to figure out how to pay sales tax on legal fees, with considering all the different ways legal fees come in. This was going to be a crushing responsibility. It also not only impacted us, but it impacted dozens of other organizations that were exempt from the taxation. The groups came together. We had a featured role. We had a press conference. We also were able to testify against the bill. It was a collaboration of a number of different organizations, and I'm not saying we were completely responsible for it, but we certainly had a great deal of participation in seeing that the bill never actually got out of committee. I don't know what's going to happen next year, but I thought it was very effective, and I was very thankful that we were so far ahead of that on behalf of our members. More recently, from a kind of an advocacy standpoint, the ABA had their virtual days in Washington. We did participate in that. We were able to speak to both our senators, to Dutch Ruppertsberger, to the representative of Andy Harris's office, to Jamie Raskin from Montgomery County, and to Representative of John Cardins. I think that's everybody. Once again, we talked about a bit about the funding for COVID issues and that type of thing. But once I felt we really did a good job, and we were very well received. I think the MSBA has done a good job of raising our profile recently. Now, the final thing is then, we were doing those kind of things, and then all of a sudden COVID came along, and the world turned upside down. Not just the legal profession world, but the world as we know it turned upside down. And I'm very, very thankful to Vic and Anna and the staff at the Maryland State Bar Association. I hope everybody that's participating in this call here realizes how hard they worked to get information out from the judiciary, to coordinate with the judiciary, to coordinate with different stakeholders or partners in the local bars and specialty bars. And there was a great deal of effort that was above and beyond the call of duty. And so that I hope everybody has realized now. You're going to hear more about that from our executive director. But I am very proud to be the president of this organization during this time of need, because they've responded so well. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much, Dana. I'd like to turn now to our executive director, Victor Velasquez, for some comments.
Thanks, Shaoli, and thanks, Dana. And everybody on this call should know that President Williams has been really working very hard for us. In fact, on those calls, he was the lead voice, and Judge Scurdy, who's participating on this call, and we see that he has the proud Puerto Rican flag we saw in the back for his trip. We've had just a tremendous delegation working on behalf of our interest. It was not a fait accompli that we were going to be able to defeat what was a grassroots effort to fund Kirwan. And a lot of people did participate, and our advocacy did shine through, whether that's press conferences and testimony, behind the scenes work, rallying, social media efforts that we undertook. The strength of the State Bar shone in that opportunity. And as we pivot now to COVID, you're seeing us do what we can to try to equip practitioners and law firms of all sizes. The reality is that we are doing significantly more than just conveying information. We are working with the judicial branch, the executive branch. As a result of our efforts, clarifications are coming out, administrative orders have come out, legislation and laws have been accelerated. We've worked with sections, some more than others, to try to deliver for their sections and for our members generally. This is the third session that we've held with this group, and we probably won't hold one for a little while. And we will likely bring another session back on with this group once we get closer to what we'll call the reopening, when the world starts to get back to normal, and all of a sudden the lull that we're in right now gets chaotic because courts are opening up and the world is beginning to spin. So a couple of things I want to share with you. You would have seen that we made an announcement that the Legal Summit annual meeting has been canceled. That was a difficult decision. That was a recommendation made to our executive committee, ultimately to our board, which unanimously approved that recommendation. We worked hard to figure out what alternatives there were associated with the annual meeting. We surveyed registrants, vendors, speakers to see if alternative dates would work. And the bottom line is that the MSBA stood to lose at a minimum $100,000. And frankly, we were just not comfortable that it was the right time to be doing it, even regardless of the economics. And so we are going to make good for all of our registrants that had registered. And as a reminder, we were on pace to probably have the largest annual meeting. with 350 plus folks having already registered. We are going to give them multiple options in terms of their fees. They can obviously be refunded. We can deliver them a new product, something that we're calling the MSBA Passport. And I'll just spend 1 minute on that. We're going to market this much more extensively, but in light of COVID, a lot of our plans have changed. And the MSBA Passport program, in essence, is your ability to pay one price and to get your membership, to get all on-demand CLE, which we've now made free for not just our members, but the entire profession through June 30th. Well, post June 30th, those will no longer be free. But all on-demand CLE would be included, but also all in-person CLE. We do 40 to 50 in-person CLE sessions throughout the state each year. In addition, for that one price, you would be able to attend all of our summits. That includes our annual meeting and our solo summit and other events. And so we're going to deliver that as an option to those who have registered, in addition to a couple of other options. We have something that we're working on, since we were very disappointed to have to cancel our legal summit. We are working on a concept called Legal Excellence Week, which will have multiple components, multiple events that we typically would hold. We're bringing them all together. I believe it's some 8, 9, or 10 different conferences that we typically would hold, smaller in nature, bringing them all together. And perhaps Ann and others can give you more details during this call. But we're working on that. We anticipate we would have anywhere from 800 to 1,000 people over the course of a week participate at that conference. We don't have final dates yet. We don't have a final location, but it's something that we're working on deep into the end of this year with our hopes that we will have some sense of normalcy and that there'll be an appetite to attend such an event. We have been working hard on all fronts. I will say that the team is going to share updates in their respective areas. I have been pleased by the really positive feedback that we've gotten. We keep track of comments that are positive, and we've got many, many comments that we've been keeping track of. And the free CLE on demand, we've had hundreds and hundreds of attorneys take advantage of that. In fact, we've had over 8,000 attorneys participate in our live and on-demand webinars around COVID and other topics at this point. So we are delivering as much as we can in terms of benefits and value. And the reality is this: it is at times like this that a strong, resilient, and unified state bar becomes ever more important. And we're pleased to be playing the role that we're playing in very difficult and challenging circumstances that our members and the public at large are facing. So I will not spend much more time, but I'm happy to. I know we're going to do a formal Q&A, but before I throw it back to Xiaoli, does anybody have any thoughts or questions about anything that you've heard so far? All right. We appreciate your attendance on this, and Xiaoli, back to you.
Thank you, Vic. And as a reminder to everyone, if you're unable or if you just have a thought while someone else is speaking or presenting, feel free to post in the chat, and we'll be monitoring that as well. Could I turn now to Andrea Terry from our learning department to give us an update on webinars and how people are tuning in? Thanks, Andrea.
Sure. Thanks, Xiaoli. Welcome, everyone. It's always good to see everybody, even on screen. As Vic mentioned, we have had a couple of dozen webinars, and the sections have really stepped up. Everyone from the Labor and Employment Law section, ADR, Estates and Trusts, taxation, all the sections immediately identified really how their practice areas were being impacted by the pandemic and the need to work from home and serve clients remotely. And so we've really responded quickly, and I couldn't be more appreciative of all the content and responsiveness on part of the sections. We all of the organization. We do practice runs, and we just provide all logistical and technical support. So if you know of a topic that is impacting your practice area and you want to have that addressed, just reach out, and we'll do all the legwork for you. Vic also mentioned the free CLE offer that we have going right now for all of our on-demand catalog. That's 150 plus programs, and That's been sent out to all the listservs and our e-weeklies. And we've had almost 4,000 takers already since that was made available last week. So we're doing everything we can. And we welcome ideas and suggestions from your side of the practice arena. And we'll do everything we can to support you.
Thank you, Andrea. I'd like to turn now to Richard Montgomery. Richard, can you give us an update about what you've been working on with the sections, the governor's office, and the Maryland Chamber?
Thank you, Shelley. Hello, everyone. My name is Richard Montgomery. I'm the Legislative Director for the MSBA. As you've heard previously, we've been working with every branch of government, the executive branch, the judicial branch, and to some degree the legislature. As you're probably aware, the General Assembly decided to nix their anticipated May special session. It's entirely possible that there may be a special session later in the year, but that would largely depend upon the state of emergency and whether that's lifted. One of the things that we've been heavily involved with is working with the Governor's Office of Legal Counsel, particularly in connection with two executive orders, actually leading up to recommending those executive orders. The first being on remote notarization, which essentially had the effect of speeding up the effective date of a bill that passed, a stripped down version of the bill that passed in 2019, authorizing remote notarization. We were also heavily involved, and this was mostly the Estates and Trust section that did all the work on this, with the executive order on remote witnessing, particularly in connection with estate planning documents. The governor's office, the governor signed that not very long ago. We've also been involved with fleshing out interpretive guidance from the governor's office. As you know, executive orders come and they're very, very, very general. And often there are questions about how to apply the basic authorizations contained in executive orders. So we've been working closely with the governor's office in fleshing those out and also posting our answers back from OLC, the Governor's Office of Legal Counsel, once we get answers back from them. We've also been heavily involved with the Maryland Chamber of Commerce. Shelley and I serve on their COVID-19 work group. The early meetings on that dealt a lot with the CARES Act and particularly with the PPP and EIDL programs, EIDL. More recently, however, they've looked forward, been a little bit more forward thinking as to what's going to happen as our society begins to open back up a little bit. And one of the things that we've come across is that there are a lot of small business owners who are concerned about employer liability relative to the pandemic once things start to open back up. But that's basically about where we are now. Also, legislative committees are starting to think in the same way. The Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee has tentatively scheduled a briefing. I think it's principally going to be with the judiciary for what they anticipate the court proceedings and demands to look like and prioritization of the courts once the courts open back up as they're scheduled to do in June. That briefing is scheduled tentatively for May the 7th. And that's about where things stand right now.
Thank you, Richard. I'll turn now to our Deputy Director, Anna Scholl. Anna, could you give us an update on our publications and upcoming content, as well as any other details on Legal Excellence Week?
Sure. I'll start with Legal Excellence Week. As Vic had mentioned, we are still heavily in the planning phase of this, but it will be a week-long event that we hope to hold in the Montgomery County, Prince George's County area. That will be a combination of many of our most popular CLEs and programs that we have, as well as some added keynote speakers, social events, and things like that. So we're really, really excited about it, and we hope to have dates and more details confirmed by the end of the month, so we can start pushing that out to you guys so you can start participating and registering for that event this fall. In terms of our publications, our Spring Bar Journal is about to publish within the next week. Again, that's an all digital version, delayed slightly so we can incorporate more details about the COVID-19 pandemic. In the meantime, we are simultaneously working on our late summer edition. So the editorial advisory board just met on that, and we're working on the content for that piece as well. So we'll have two journals that publish pretty close in time together. We will also be surveying the sections. We're interested to hear how we're interested to hear how COVID-19 has implications on your particular practice area. So if something is going on in your practice area, your section you'd like to share, we'll be sending a quick survey. And so whether you'd like to have a full write-up on that or just a couple of tidbits on what's going on, that's something we're hoping to collect for our late summer bar journal. I just saw a question from John Henderson about the bar exam. I think I'll defer to Shally on that when she comes back around. And Jen, the other thing that I wanted to note in case people hadn't noticed is we've now been communicating 2 times a week in our, we typically had an e-weekly that was at the beginning of the week to provide you with content. We now have an end of the week weekly roundup. And both of those are just focused on giving you more content as it relates to COVID-19, but then just generally the practice of law. So stay tuned for those, because we'll try to have more content about what it is going to be like as we start to come online and things start to open up, because I think that is a shakeup that is going to be as equal to the shakeup as we shut down. So Shally, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Anna. And in response to the question about cancellation of the bar or changes to the bar exam, this is an issue that we've heard about from many members and Maryland attorneys. DC has canceled its upcoming bar. The Maryland State Bar examiners will make a decision towards the end of May. And right now we've been talking to some of the sections who have heard some feedback as well, such as the Young Lawyers section, where they're trying to see if there is no bar exam, would it be offered in the fall? In the meantime, are there any other avenues for people to practice law or to have any sort of opportunities, even if there's no exam? So that is something we're looking at, and we'll share more information as we receive it.
Shally, I might add,
Sure.
Dana Williams might want to have a couple of comments about the bar exam. We have a representative for the MSBA that's participating in that group. Dana, is there anything to share, or will we just circle back? It's like a cliffhanger.
Here he is.
Yes, I did talk to Mr. Shipley, who I guess is the head of the State Board of Bar Examiners, yesterday. And there is a task force or workforce being put together, which I think is at least 2 of the law school deans are going to be on it, and other individuals, including a representative of the Maryland State Bar Exam. If I understood it, maybe it hasn't been officially announced, but they are planning a contingency. They'd like to have the bar exam in September, because it doesn't look as though the summertime bar exam is practical right now, and that's what they're trying to figure out, is how to do the bar exam, and if it needs to be done virtually. So there is a workforce that's actively involved in that. So although they understand how crucial it is and how much anxiety it is causing with the law schools and the poor graduating seniors, and so they're trying to address that in a fair way. So there'll be more to come out, and our representative has been tasked with keeping us up to date as things develop.
Thank you, Dana, for that update. I will turn now to Lisa Kaplan, who is director of our Lawyers Assistance Program, to provide updates. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I want to share some updates about the health and wellness page that we have. We've been updating that on a regular basis. There are a lot of really good information on there, everything from yoga to home classes that you can take. It's really important at this time to really take care of yourselves. And also the support group that I've been doing on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. It's been extended through May. It's been a small group, but it's been really good. It's a discussion group, and I think it's been really helpful. Also, don't forget about the Lawyer Assistance Program. It can help for any type of problems. It will cover any lawyers in Maryland. If you're concerned about an attorney, please call me and talk with me. You won't get that person in trouble. It's completely anonymous, but we will reach out to somebody and possibly save someone's life. And we also have financial support in case anybody, at this point, a lot of people are dealing with financial issues. If someone cannot pay for continuing counseling that they're in or treatment that they're in, it's available to help with mental health and substance abuse. So they just need to give me a call and we can get that process started. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I would just like to give an update from the member services side and member engagement. We have heard from a lot of you with what you've been writing and putting together. We've been trying to incorporate that into our COVID-19 website to capture those articles and content. We also have all of our on-demand and upcoming webinars listed there. And Lisa just mentioned the wonderful wellness resources on that page. We've also started coffee talks with certain sections, and we plan to reach out to more sections and have all of those represented by the end of May. And it's a nice opportunity we've had in the mornings to connect within each section, hear from section members and leaders about practice-specific questions and concerns, but also just getting the community together in a more informal way, just as an alternative to what we've been offering in the webinar. So we thank all of you who've joined in that, and we have a few coming up for family law, negligence, immigration, and the solo and small firms.
Shally, I'm going to field a question that Danielle
Sure.
has asked regarding budgeting. It came up in our last section town hall. As everybody knows, the way the budgeting process works for sections is we essentially calculate based on a formula the number of dues paying members for that particular section. We take a 15% administrative deduction, which doesn't come close to covering the expenditures that the MSBA has on behalf of sections. And at the end of the fiscal year, any monies that have been unspent by sections get swept into to help the operating performance, the operating P&L performance of the State Bar, since the State Bar spends in excess of $400,000, for example, on sections. This year, the MSBA, effective, I think I mentioned earlier that we were on pace to have a really strong annual meeting. Last year, we had over 1,100 participants, which was 695, 96 a couple of years ago. And we were projecting to be in the 1,300 range, given where we were through mid-February. The moment this COVID situation happened, registrations dried up. We typically would collect $200,000 to $300,000 in registration revenue. We pushed CLE revenue into the next fiscal year and canceled lots of CLE, which was an impact of $150,000 to $200,000. In short, the State Bar is potentially going to lose upwards to $1 million as a result of revenues being driven down to essentially zero. We have, just as recently as this past Friday, furloughed roughly 10% of our staff. When I joined the organization, there were 31 employees. We are moving ourselves to 17 based on where we are right now. So the answer to the question is, yes, sections will not have the ability to carry over whatever has not been spent this fiscal year into the next fiscal year, which is generally is always the case with no carryover. But at this point, we're trying to mitigate what is a devastating financial impact to the State Bar and our ability to support all programs, including sections. So Danielle, that's more than you asked for, but I wanted to give you the context behind the decision why we were going to maintain our policy of not allowing carrying over in this unprecedented set of times. So I don't know if there's a follow-up question or if anybody wants to go unmute and follow up on the budget discussion point. Thank you, Danielle. Shally, back to you. I appreciate you asking the question.
Sure, yes. And I'd like to open it up now, as we have in the prior town halls. If you have a question or a comment, whether you're calling in as a chair or chair-elect, or anyone on the MSBA staff, if you have anything to add based on what we've discussed so far, this is your time and your opportunity. We're always available, but really this time is for you and to hear your comments, feedback, what we're doing right, what we could be doing better, all of that. And while we're having folks think through that, I also did want to provide an update as well about our partner Access to Justice. Rena Shah's on another call right now, actually, with civil legal aid organizations, but they've also been busy with their own website, connecting with the civil legal aid community, and working on a public information campaign and preparing for disaster legal services and fundraising efforts. So they have a lot of really good content on their page and a lot of really good organizations and individuals working hard to provide services.
Charlie, can you speak to the member-only benefit of the consolidated orders, just as we're...
Absolutely. So last week, we had heard from all of you that it was very difficult to keep up with the orders that have been coming in at a rapid pace, not only from the Maryland judiciary, but the federal bench, immigration courts, from the governor's office. So we put together a spreadsheet that is a member-only benefit and provides an array of all of those orders, interpretive guidance, looking at orders that have affected all courts, and then breaking it down within Maryland to specific counties. We've also included website updates that let you know what court policies are, clerk's information if there are different updates, and we're actually working on a update to that right now. So that'll be coming your way a little later this week. And really our focus on that is for you all to provide us with feedback about that content. We want to make this as easy for you as possible, as accessible for you as possible, in a quick way. And we will just continue adding to that. And if there are other entities that you think would be great to include, we're happy to add those to the document. And you will see those updates as you click through. So if you just bookmark that page on our site, you will see updated orders.
I'm going to take the next question, which is budget related as well. Jack Orrick, Jack, good to see you. The budget was developed prior to COVID, and was there going to be a change to the budget because of COVID? We know that there's going to be some implication related to behavior, and that there is the very real impact to membership, CLE, and other events, et cetera. So the decision that was made was that we would revisit the performance of the MSBA in September. Our dues year is a July 1 dues year. We're going to begin sending invoices out on or about May 11th, as is typical. It's actually 2 weeks early this year, based on a vote of the board. And by September, we will be 2.5 months into our fiscal year, and we will see how our performance is trending. And it's at that time, Jack, that we may potentially recast a budget going forward. You should know that the MSBA was performing quite a bit better than it was the prior fiscal year. Our revenues were up 15%. Our expenses were down 17% year over year. It was not going to be a phenomenal year, but it was a significantly better year than it was last fiscal year. So to your point, because there was just no basis to be able to make any determinations, we decided to move forward, and the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee made the recommendation that the board approve the budget as it was contemplated, but that the Budget and Finance reconvene in September, review the performance, and then make recommendations to the board to potentially recast the budget. So that's how we're addressing it. And simply because there was just no way of being able to make any projections, it was unclear to us what the numbers would look like in any particular revenue item. From an expense side, we've already made the necessary adjustments to try to bring our cost structure down even further. I think I mentioned we furloughed staff. We've also renegotiated the expenses associated with our transitional space at Brewers Hill Hub, where we've gotten a significant reduction in rent from them. We have also changed and modified our vendor payment timelines, and we're continuing to work and to wait to hear on our IEIDL application. We've not heard from the SBA. In fact, in those calls that we had last week with the senators, since you asked about the budget, we did ask about that program, and their answer was, in essence, the SBA is swamped. We also knew that they weren't the most efficient processor. It's not like the PPP program that's being processed through banks and financial intermediaries. And we also know that there have been thousands of fraudulent applications into the SBA, which is also further straining their capacity and ability to process timely. So all of these are sort of the moving parts that we're trying to manage while continuing to, you are all leaders of our organization as section leaders, as committee leaders, while we're trying to deliver value and continue to perform for our membership as we balance the realities of we're a small business that generates $5 to $6 million a year with now 17 employees. So we're hopeful that we're going to be able to have C6s eligible for PPP lending, which they are not right now. So Jack, that's way more than you asked for, but I wanted to give you the full thinking around why we wanted to wait till we had at least some data to be able to make any kind of credible projections, and we will reconvene in September.
Thanks, Vic. And if I could jump in as well on the renewal campaign, as Vic said, those emails and invoices will start going out next month. And we would really ask you all as leaders to promote that idea to your sections and to your peers and people that are not already part of the MSBA community to really join us, join this effort, and as much as people can to pay these invoices early on, pay them online, because mail processing and being in a remote environment, we don't want to slow down anyone's access to us and anyone else's access to the community. So we really do want to ask you to help us with that. And I'll ask Angela, do we have any other questions or comments in the chat?
I don't see any, Sally.
Okay. Lots of positive comments. That's always good. Anyone else here like to jump in?
Is there anything that we're not doing that you would like to see us doing? And I do genuinely appreciate Stan, Wally, and others who are making very positive comments. Is there anything that we could be doing better? I know that the team is working extremely hard, and hopefully we're working smart, but anything else that we are not accomplishing that you'd like us to see, attempt to think about and tackle? In our last call, as you're thinking about that, I had a shout out for Glenn Frost. He's generally off camera when I make a point to say this. So I'm once again going to say, Glenn, thank you for your leadership. Your firm has been exceptional during this pandemic situation. And I have been very impressed, as have many others, in terms of what you've been able to provide. Maybe you could spend just a minute giving an overview about what your firm is engaged in right now. I do believe there's also some litigation if you want to share that.
Sure. Thank you, Victor. So we've, had thousands of clients that have reached out to us with these PPP applications, and just their inability to access the banks that are the gatekeeper for these applications. So we have filed a class action lawsuit basically alleging that minorities and woman-owned small businesses don't have the same access that these larger companies have access to. So we'll continue to update you, Victor, but that's the status right now.
Thank you. Shaoli, back to you.
Thanks. So we have another comment here from Danielle. We could use some help getting clarification on how the judiciary's orders apply to orphans courts proceeding, if at all. Thank you, Danielle, for that. We have made inquiries to the judiciary about that court. We are sending the judiciary another set of questions and hoping to communicate with them directly after that to discuss responses. So we'll be sure to include that.
I want to share with all of you that we have really been very aggressive with the amount of questions that we've delivered to the judiciary, and our partnership with them has been excellent. I believe that just like everyone else, they are getting fatigued with this environment. And what we're trying to balance is our ability to continue to get answers on behalf of our membership, while allowing them the opportunity for them to think about the reset, the next phase. That is going to be where our focus is going to be over the course of the next couple of weeks. Start to think about where the issues are and what we need to be addressing. So as Shally pointed out, we are going to once again issue them another set of questions. And again, they have been exceptional in getting back to us. I will say that my sense of it is that they're not necessarily dying to get another question set from us, given all that they're working on. But we will continue that push. We think it's appropriate. It's the role that we play. And let there be no doubt, we think that they've done a really, really good job in uncharted territory. There's no playbook for what is occurring right now, and they have been working hard to figure out. And our questions have resulted, as I said earlier, in administrative orders. Our questions have resulted in clarifications, and the dialogue has been open. So just know that we continue to ask. At this point, we're at 200 questions, Shally?
Just under 200.
Just under
I think this week we will make 200. And I'll also add to that, it hasn't been just the same questions said over and over asking for an update. It really has been tailored, filtered down, reviewing the orders that have come in, hearing from all of you, and finessing and tailoring the asks of them and the clarifications. And I think that we as a profession you all have done a tremendous job at sorting through this and getting on with the work. So to the extent that we can help to provide that clarity and move the ball forward, that's really been our goal in all of this.
Shally, perhaps if as we turn it over to Judge Skurdy for comments, I would say this. My only ask of all of you as leaders of your respective sections and committees is that you convey what you're hearing on these calls, and that you convey the breadth of the efforts. There is a team of talented members on the staff, and then there is a significantly larger talented set of volunteer leaders and volunteers who are helping us to achieve what we achieve. Please carry the message. We're sending a lot of email out. We want to be judicious with people's time on that front, but please carry the message. And Shally, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. So I will ask our President-elect now, Mark Skurdy, who's on the call. Mark, I'll turn it over to you for some comments and thoughts, and that beautiful flag behind you.
Thank you, Shally. Thank you to everybody. Just a couple quick comments. I just want to echo Vic's comments about how critical each of you are as a liaison to your membership and to the Board of Governors to communicate information about what the MSBA is doing. And if you can only imagine the void we'd have if it wasn't for the work of our team communicating and getting the information out there. We're really doing a phenomenal job, and I thank our team as well. So I do look forward to working with the new section chairs, the new committee chairs for the new bar year. And I look forward to thinking of ways that we can help support the sections under this new current reality that we're under. And I think we do have to look at next winter and the spring. There may be a repeat, so we need to have sort of that built into our plan as you start planning your bar year for next year as well. I know that the sections have had some decrease in membership, as many bar associations across the country have seen a decrease, but I really would like to see what I could do and we can do to help grow your sections. And I think that particularly getting the message that of the resources that we've provided, the MSBA has done, and the connections through the judiciary, and getting the information out there will help really show that there is value for the sections and for membership, particularly in the sections. So, just a quick shout out to those that'll be coming in as the new section chairs. I look forward to working with you in committees. And as they mentioned, if you are on camera, you can see me. You'll see my Puerto Rican flag behind me, as Vic mentioned at the beginning. And that's because I am self-promoting the mid-year excursion. It's scheduled for February the 14th to the 20th at the Hotel Caribe in San Juan, Puerto Rico. It's going to be a fun week filled of events, and we'll be opening that up for reservations soon. So stay tuned on the MSBA.org website. I thank Vic, I thank Shally, Angela, everyone that has done such a tremendous, tremendous job here, and particularly under the leadership of Judge Williams. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I'll just check again. I think we've gotten all of your questions. As Vic and everyone has said, we are here for you. Even more so in the remote environment, we are always here for you. And we encourage you, please, to reach out to us. Please don't feel like you have to wait until our next meeting to tune in, to check in with us. And please give us all of your feedback and let us know what else we can be doing. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. Bye-bye.